Hello everyone, and welcome back once again. So we are going to be continuing with the series. In the previous video when we were dealing with the data validation, component, we faced a challenge in terms of when we were trying to execute that component. It was bringing an error. So I worked on it, and the problem that I saw was that we opened the data. I think it was the data ingestion, the data set itself. So we opened it in the file explorer. So when we were trying to execute, then we were just encountering that problem. But I was able to resolve that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to execute both the data ingestion and the data validation. So I'll just go to the main.py. So where is so to the main.py. Then from here, we do have our data validation component as well as the data ingestion component. So I'm going to execute these two simultaneously. Then after that, we can push our code to the Git repository. So I'm going to execute this. So just Python main.py. Python main.py. So by this, we are going to execute this component simultaneously. So the data ingestion as well as the data validation. Then after that, we can then start with the data transformation component. So I hope you remember how we did our data analysis. So it was, I think, the second video where we did some data analysis, and by that we tried to gauge the best algorithm and the best techniques that we can use to clean our data. So that's what we did, I think, in the second video. So you can just go to that, maybe have a quick overview of what we did during that section, because most of the things that we are going to be doing under data transformation will be drawing from that. So as you can see now, we have our data ingestion components. So it has executed successfully. We also have our data validation component. Again, it has executed successfully. So I think both those two components are working concurrently. So after this, the only thing is to push this to our Git repository. So I'll just do a git add, then git status, just to see which files we are committing. So the config.yaml, okay, so that's okay. Then after this, git commit. Then we can state this as a data validation, data validation component. Then we can, after this, we can just do a git push. After staging, we push. So git push -u origin main. I think that's okay. So that's it. So we won't be encountering any challenges today. We are going to start with the data transformation. So let's go to trial number 3, data transformation. So as usual, we are going to start by importing the necessary libraries. So let's say import OS, import pandas. We also need pandas. So import pandas as ed. Also need numpy. We also need a job lib. We'll also need a statistical package that is from scipy.stats. We're going to import the z-score. From PI stats. Here are we getting an error? I think it's okay. Then other modules from src rule battery. So rule battery, we are going to import components logging. So from here, let's import logging. Going to import logging. Then from src we're going to import functions from the utils. So utils .commons. We're going to import save objects. So I think this will be the preprocessing object. Then again, we are going to need data transform. We're going to need save objects. We also need the read YAML. We also need to create directories. Also need the config paths. So from to be a rule battery constants. Import config constants. Import a config file path. Constants. We're missing something. Constants. Then import config file path. We also need params file path. We also need schema. That's okay. Other libraries that we need to include something like the train test split. Let me just include them. So from the scikit-learn, we're going to import the train test split, the column transformer, pipeline, sample imputer, standard scaler, and the one hot encoder. I think we used the min max, if I'm not wrong. I think we used the min max. We used the min max. If I'm not wrong. So you can just substitute the standard scaler with the min max. I think we used, or let's just use the standard scaler. Min max scaler. So we can we just substitute, no problem with that, and you can find a way out. So after this, we need to import create our entity. So with our entity, again at data class. So from here, data class. So we did not import the libraries for data class. So from data classes, import a data class. So that's what is missing. Okay, so now it's okay. So we need to create the class itself, data transformation config. So data transformation config. Data transformation config. Then we need to ensure that we have correctly updated our config.yaml. So we need to include another stage, and this stage should be that representing the data transformation. So we can say data transformation. So this is the data transformation stage. Again, we need to specify something to do with the file paths, the columns, and everything. So I had prepared that. So data ingestion. And, so we are going to create another directory, a data transformation folder. Then the data that you're going to use will be available under this folder. So data path, it's in the data ingestion, and this is the data itself. Then we are just listing the numeric columns, so that's the categorical columns. But in our data, we don't have the categorical columns. But I've just created an empty list such that if in future we do have categorical columns, then we can just provide a list of those columns. So we just list the column names. And when we are listing these columns, remember to exclude the target column. So you cannot see the target column rule. So we can see the schema.yaml, this is our target column. But when we look at the config.yaml, we have excluded that column. Okay, because we are going to do some data transformation, and we don't want to include that target column. So after we have updated our data transformation stage in the config.yaml, we need to go back to our data transformation, and under the data transformation, we need now to update the necessary paths. So for example, we need to specify the root directory, so that is the path. So again, I missed to import a path. So from path lib, import path. So we have listed the path, the data path, the numeric columns, as well as the categorical columns. So that's all about our entity. So the next thing is about the configuration manager. Configuration manager. Under the configuration manager, so we need to create a class configuration. This is the common one. So just copy this. So for the class configuration manager, and then we have the config file path, the parameters, and the schema. So in the previous section, we populated our schema.yaml file with the necessary columns and their respective data types. So for this case, again, params, I think when we are dealing with the model trainer, then we will update our params. For this section, for currently, you don't need to do anything under the parameters. Okay, so that's the configuration manager. Then we need to create a data transformation config as an object. So then this it's supposed to be def get data transformation configuration. So make sure everything is aligned so that we don't get an error. So we have a data transformation config, data transformation, directories. Okay, then whatever we are listing here is whatever is in our entity. So that's not challenge. So this is just the common stuff we have been repeating over and over since we started our data ingestion. Then after this, we need to create a class to handle the actual data transformation process. So we create a class to handle the actual data transformation process. So class data transformation, def init, self config data transformation config, that's okay, self, that's okay. So we start with the data transformation. The first thing is about removing the outliers. So we are going to remove outliers. When we are removing the outliers, remember that we selected the technique where we remove outliers from the respective individual columns. So again, I'm going to institute my try else try except block. So again, I'll say login. So we'll just log in a simple message. So login.info. Then you can say outlier removal process has started. So outlier removal process has started. Then we start starting that. So the first thing is we are going to only select columns, only numeric columns. Select the numeric columns from the data frame. So again, I'm saying numeric columns self dot config dot numeric columns. Then after this, we need to start calculating the z-score. Calculate the z-score for each column individually. So I'm going to use something like a for loop. So for all columns, for the columns in numeric columns, then we set our z-score. So numpy dot absolute. So you can say z-score for the respective those columns. So df then we specify the z-score. So z-score z-score then 3.0, I think 3.0 filter. So here we are just filtering rows. We include filter rows based on the individual columns z-score. And after this, we can log information about this. So this one's supposed to align them together. And after this, I think supposed to be logging. This one's supposed to be I think that's okay. So I'll try to explain what I'm doing under this section. Then after this, we need to add our except. So excepts. So let's try to find out what we are doing. So I'll just click here, explain. Then we'll use tab 9 to try to get an explanation as to what we are doing under this section. So the selected code snippet is part of the data transformation class, which is responsible for handling the data transformation part. So that one we have a clear understanding of what that entails. So the method starts by logging. So we are logging some information. Then it retrieves the list of numeric columns. So we created a list of the numeric columns. Then for each numeric column, it's going to calculate the z-score using the z-score function from scipy.stats module. The z-score represents the number of standard deviation a data point is from the mean. So if you read more about the z-score or any other technique that you can use to handle outliers. So this is what the z-score uses when handling the outliers. So it filters the data frame df based on the z-score. Then the rows with z-score greater than 3.0 are considered outliers and they are removed from the data frame. So after filtering, we are logging some information. Then finally, it logs an information message indicating the completion of the outlier removal. So essentially, that's what is taking under the method removal, under the method remove outliers. So after this, the next step, we are going to create a transformer object. So this transformer object will be necessary essentially when we are getting a user data. So we are going to get transform data. So get transformer object. So get transformer object self. Okay, so this is it. I'm just going to do away with this. Then I'm going to again use the try block. Then logging data transformation process has started. Then we are going to again separate the numeric and the categorical columns. So numeric columns self.config numeric columns, categorical columns self.config categorical columns. That's okay. Then we need to create a pipeline for the numeric columns. For the numeric columns, I think so. Yeah, numeric columns. So we are defining a pipeline. So we can just add the pipeline and the pre-processing steps for the numeric columns. So numeric columns pipeline, again steps. So we'll use the simple imputer and the median. Then scalar will use the min-max scalar. Then for the categorical transformer, again pipeline, then we specify the steps. Again, we're using the imputer and the one-hot encoding. But just know we don't have the categorical columns. But it won't pain us if we include this step, such that when you just locate, when you just if you're going to add the categorical columns, so you just go to the config.yaml file, add those columns, and just execute your code without coming back to the data transformation and try to change it. Okay. Then after that, we need to define the column transformer. So we combine the numeric and the categorical columns. So preprocessor, column transformers, the numeric transformer. Then we specify the numeric transformer, the numeric columns. Then categorical, again the same thing. Then after this, if we do have a remainder columns, so we can just say remainder pass through. So I'll just make sure this one is, and I can do away with this. So after this, we can log in the data transformation process as completed. Then we need to return the processor, return the preprocessor. Then we close this with the except block. Okay, try except block. So we accept exception as E, then erase E. So I think that's it. Make sure we are aligning everything correctly. So that's it. Okay. So we start by removing the outliers. Then we get the transformer object. So after this, we need now to import our data, do the train test split, then apply our method. First, we remove outliers in the training data. Then we apply the transformer object to the training to the training data. So let's do that. So we need to initiate so we started initiate data transformation process. So this one was to get the transformer object. So this one is to initiate initiate the data transformation. Initiate data transformation. So initiate data transformation. Data transformation. So self. And we have the X train. We have the X tests. We have the Y train. Y train. We also have the Y test. So this is how we are going to split our data. And I just want to make sure everything is aligned. If okay, so I think everything is okay. Then we create our try block, and then from here we need to get the preprocessor object. Let me increase the font. So we need to get the preprocessor object. So preprocessor self.get preprocessor object. That's okay. Then we need to, oops, there's something that we have missed. Before we get to the initiate data transformation, we need first to have imported our data. So the train test splitting. The train test split first. So let's split the data into training and the testing set. So we need to first split the data into training and testing. So train test splitting. So train test splitting. Train test splitting. So you can say self. So that's okay. Sorry for this mistake. So we need to first import our data before we apply the preprocessing. So try block, that's okay. Then we need to import our data. So pd.read CSV. Then self.config data path. Data path. So we know that the data path, this one here, contains the path to our data itself. So that's okay. So we use that to import the data. Let me add some space so that okay. So then we need to apply this method, the remove outliers, to our data frame, so that we do away with the outliers. So df after importing our data, we need to apply. So from this case, we are applying the remove outlier method to essentially remove the outliers. So after that, self.remove outliers. So we are removing outliers. Then we define the targets and the features. Feature variables. Essentially, these are the X and the Y. So X, we are going to drop X.drop. I like using specified, say, columns. I like using columns. Then rules should be inside brackets. And we don't need this one. Then the Y is supposed to be rule. That's okay. Then we can create another logging message. let's say login.info. Splitting the data just add this. So login.info, splitting the data into training and the testing set. So this is what we are doing. We are now, after we have imported our data, then use the remove outliers, and then we do away with the outliers. We then define the target feature, the target variables. Then after that, we split our data using the train test split function from scikit-learn. Then test size 0.2, random set 42, x and y. Then we split our data into the training set, testing set, and that's okay. Then after this, I need to save our data. So save the target variables for both training and the testing set. So for this, I'll just save them as CSV files. So nothing major about that. So ytrain, then we are saving our ytrain data as well as the ytest data. So you might ask yourself, why are we not again saving why are we not saving the xtrain and the ytrain? It's because we are going to first apply the preprocessing object, this one here. After we apply the preprocessor, then we can save our data. Okay, but the ytrain and the ytest does not undergo further preprocessing from here. So then after this, we can then return xtrain, ytrain. So and then return xtrain, then the xtrain, then xtrain, xtest, ytrain, ytest. So ytrain, ytest. So that's okay. So xtrain, xtest, ytrain, ytest. Then we create our exception as E. Then this should be raise E. I think up to now everything is okay. So after we have imported our data, after we have done the train test splitting, then we can now move to the next section, which is about initiating the data transformation, where we apply the preprocessor object to the training data. So training def initiate data transformation, that's okay. Try block except for preprocessor. Then after this, we need to apply or fit or train the training and the testing data using the preprocessor object. So just say preprocessor object. So we are applying we are fitting the preprocessor object to the training data. So you can see now where the xtrain is coming. Why we did not save the xtrain and the xtest, because we need first to apply the preprocessor object. Then because if I'll be saving unnecessary files. So after that, we need then to save the preprocessing object. After this, we need to save the preprocessing objects. Processing object. So preprocessor path, then we save that object. So preprocessor is preprocessor path. Okay, then after that, we need to save the transformed training and testing sets. So here we are going to save the transformed data as a sparse matrix. Then we are applying after applying the preprocessor objects, we'll form something like a sparse matrix. So we need to save our data. So xtrain transformed the path. So we are saving this. Then we are using the joblib for that. So joblib.dump. Then now we can return xtrain transformed, xtest, ytrain, ytest, as well as the preprocessor path. I think that's okay. except.e. Then after this, we are now at our pipeline. The pipeline, again, you can say if underscore name, then underscore main underscore, then we can say try. So the try block, so configuration manager, that's okay. Data transformation config.get data transformation config, then that's okay. Data transformation config data transformation, that's okay. Next test, white test, data transformation, we do the 10 test splitting, then this is what we get the result from that. Then after this, we need to apply the preprocessor. Then after applying that, we are going to return this object. So the xtrain transformed, xtest transformed, ytrain ytest, preprocessor path. Then I think that is a preprocessor path. Then we can do this. We can add this one so that processor, and you can do this data transformation. Anyway, no problem. Then we can log some information, then except.e, logging exception, no problem. Okay, so this is the data transformation. So just to do a recap, you can see that we first imported the necessary libraries. Then after that, we created our entity where we specified the root directory where we will be saving our preprocessed data as well as the data that represents the target variables. Okay, then we specify the numeric columns and the categorical columns. Then we created our configuration manager to manage the configurations. Then from there, the output from that is the data configuration, this object, the data transformation config object. Then after that, we created the class data transformation to handle the actual data transformation process. And from here, the sequence is very important. You need to understand that. The first thing is we need to first remove the outliers from the data, or we create a method that will be used to remove outliers from the data. Then we create a transformer object. So the transformer object, you can see we are doing things like the minimax scaling and the simple imputers to deal if you are missing some values in the columns. The one hot encoder if you are dealing with the categorical values. But for our case, you saw that we don't have categorical columns, but just in case, okay? Then after that, we need to combine these two preprocessing pipelines. So after that, we combine that, then we return or we get our preprocessor. Then we import our data to do the train test splitting. So we did that. Then after that, in the train test splitting, then we first, after we imported our data, we need to remove the outliers from that. Then we define our target feature and the target variable as well as the features. Then we did our train test split. So this is the train test split. Then we saved our target variables for both the training and the testing set. Then after that, we move to the where we initiate the data transformation process, where we transform our training and the testing data by fitting the transformer object, the preprocessor. Then after that, that's it. We return those. Then we create our pipeline. That's the pipeline. Then I think by that, everything is okay. So let's execute and see if we are going to get something from this. So again, just say Python and the trial, copy the relative path. So when I paste this here, make sure you have saved everything. Then let's execute to see if we are going to get. So what we are going to get from the data transformation, we're going to get the xtrain transformed, XS transformed. We also need to get the training set and the testing y-train, y-test, as well as the preprocessor object. So the preprocessor will be very important when we are building or when you are developing the prediction pipeline. The prediction pipeline will be getting data from the user. Then it needs to preprocess that data. So after getting the data, we need to do the preprocessing. We are getting some error, unbounded error, cannot access local variable df where it's not associated with the value. So let's see data transformation train test splitting. So data transformation train test split. So let's see, we are getting the error. This back most isn't this one, line 194. Extend the data transformation train test split. So train test split. Just to make sure we have everything okay. So let's see. Maybe it's a problem. df is equals to df. Let's go. Make sure everything is okay. Filter row based on the individual column Cisco, logging info, removal process, number of rows after filtering. Let's see if we are going to get, make sure we save this. Data transformation. I think what we are remove outlier. So there's something we need to add here. So they've removed outliers. So our data frame to add something here. So pd dot data frame. There's something we are missing. And, pd dot data frame. I think, is it okay? Is self config data transformation, self config config. So self, we need to add this data frame. Logging outlier removal has started. Let's see. Make sure you have saved this. I think that was the problem. So we have sorted it. Then you can see that info data transformation completed. So that's okay. So you can see that we have now sorted. We have now done the data transformation, and we have executed the prototype, and you can see that it's now working. Now we need to convert our data to modular coding. So we are going to start with the sequence. So the sequence, as we know, let me go to my read YAML. So a sequence, we know, after we need to first update our entity. First need to update our entity. So I'll just go to entity and copy this. So entity, and then entity config entity. So we need to create our data transformation entity. So data transformation entity. Just paste this here. So that's the data transformation entity. So after the entity, we need to the config manager. So data transformation. You can just save this, and so configuration manager, we need to copy this. Just copy the configuration manager. So then we go to our configuration manager in the config under the SRC folder. So config configuration, I think this one. Then we just need to copy. Let's specify this is the data transformation config. Data transformation config. Then we can just do this. Then we need to inform the data, import the data transformation config. So you can just add it here, data transformation config. Just cross check if you are missing something. No, everything is okay. So we are done with our configuration. Then we need the next step is updating the components. So data transformation component. So I'll copy everything from here, but everything until before the no, not the, need to copy everything from here. Let's say you can start from here. Everything, but not the pipeline. So we go to a data transformation component. I'll just leave some space for the necessary libraries. Then I'll just go back to the trial. Then essentially I'll just copy these libraries. Then I'll do away with the non-essential stuff. So we first need this one, and see subject object is okay. And this one we can do away with this. We can also do away with this. Data transformation config, path data class, again you can just do away with this. Anything else, let's see. So we need to import the data transformation config. So I'll just import again from src.rolebattery.entity.configuration entity. We're going to import data transformation config. Data transformation config. This one sorted this problem. Let's see if we are missing something. One hot. This is just spelling. So we can include the spelling to our user setting. Any other thing? I don't think so. We are missing. No, everything is okay. Everything is okay. So after this, we need to go to our pipeline and update the data transformation pipeline. So data transformation pipeline, that is pipeline number 3. So from pathlib import, we're going to import path. So we need to import the libraries. So we need to import from src.rolebattery. We're going to import login. We import login, that's okay. Then we need to import the configuration manager and the data transformation from the components. Again, from src.rolebattery config configuration. We are going to import configuration manager. This one, configuration manager. Then we need to import the data transformation from the data transformation component. So yeah, dealing with the components .c03 data transformation. Then we are going to import data transformation. Okay, so we define the pipeline name data transformation pipeline, and then we create a class for that. So data transformation pipeline, then dev init self. So this one is just a pass. Then find another function to execute the pipeline, and for this one we will be adding a little bit more stuff. Let me show you what we are going to add. So remember, what we are trying to do essentially, we are trying to chain the data validation to the data transformation. So what we are essentially trying to do is that if our data validation step is if both will be true, that means in terms of the validation status, I think this one is for the columns, and the data type, if these are going to be true, then we need to execute our data transformation pipeline. So we are trying to chain those components together. So how are we going to do that? So we can, for quick explanation, let's use a timeline to explain this. So the selected code is the run method of the data transformation pipeline class, and it is responsible for executing the data transformation pipeline. So we have defined what our data transformation will look like. So the steps, the necessary steps that we're going to take under the data transformation. So we have already defined that. So the data transformation pipeline is all about executing the necessary steps. And as I had alluded earlier, is that we are chaining the data transformation pipeline with the data validation pipeline, such that if we are successfully met the standards in the data validation, then the data transformation pipeline will run. So again, the code starts by opening the file status.txt. So we are using this to open this function. And then we are going to read the first line in that function. So this one in that file, sorry. So the first line and so that's the second line. And we are removing the white spaces by using the strip method. Then after that, we need to check if both status are true. So that's the way we are chaining that. So we need to ensure that the data validation stage is running okay. So we need to check if the status are true. So we are using this function, we are using this. So if status 1, so remember, after we read both lines, we are saving the status into status 1 and status 2. So if status 1 is equal to true and the status 2 is also true, then we are going to log this information and say that the data validation pipeline has already been executed successfully. That means everything is okay up to that. And then after that, I think I think we are going to log a message indicating the. So after that is done, we'll be logging this information to confirm that now the data transformation pipeline is has started or commenced. Then the code then creates an instance of the configuration manager. Then after that, we move to where it retrieves the data transformation configuration using the get data transformation config. So this is just whatever we did in the data transformation. So we're just repeating this steps. So essentially what we are creating the steps to follow while executing this pipeline. Then after that, the data transformation instance So we perform the 10 test splitting, and this one here. Then after that, we save. These are the output from that. Then after that, we can store our data, something like that. Then after that, else we are going to raise an exception if the data statuses are not true. So this exception will be raised. Then we need to go back and check what the error is all about. Finally, the code logs a message indicating the termination of the data transformation pipeline. Okay. So generally, the selected code is responsible for orchestrating the data transformation pipeline by reading the statuses pipeline, loading the configuration settings, performing the data transformation, and saving the transformed data. And we have created the type try else block to raise any errors that we might encounter during that execution. So after that, we need to go to our main.py to update the main.py. Because this is the central location where everything, we are going to run everything. Main.py data transformation. So I'll just copy the data transformation component. So it's something like this. And it's supposed to be run. Then the data transformation pipeline, we need to import it. So src rule battery pipelines. This one will be pip number 3 data transform. Oops. Pip number 3. So pip 03 data transformation. Is the data transformation? Yeah. No. Yeah, data transformation. So we are going to import data transformation pipeline. So I guess up to now everything is okay. Are we missing anything? I don't think so. So let's execute this. So you can say Python main.py, Python main.py, Python main.py, Python. Yeah. So make sure you have saved everything. Make sure everything is okay. Just tidy up my workspace. Readme data ingestion, we don't need it. Config.yaml. Make sure you have saved everything so that you're not going to raise errors. I think this one is okay. This one is okay. So Python main.py, make sure you have saved the pipeline. So main.py, and let's see. So we need get the data transformation folder and the necessary files saved into that folder. So I really hope you're enjoying this, because once you understand whatever you are doing, then things become very easy. It's very easy to understand what to do next, how you can solve these challenges that you are facing, and all that. Okay. So after the data transformation, I think you can see everything is now sumptuous. Everything is okay. The data transformation, we are good. Okay. So the next thing after data transformation will be about the model training. Okay. So don't think the model training will be just a short code. So we'll work on that in the next session. So that's all for the data transformation. So you can see how so you have seen how we have built the data transformation, the steps that we took to clean our data, split our data, apply the preprocessor. Then after that, we went all the way until we built we developed that pipeline for the data transformation. We have executed it, and you can see that everything is running okay. So let me push this to the Git repository so that you can have it. So you can say git add git status, so you can see the files that we have modified. So that's it. So we can git commit -m. This one is the data transformation. Then now we can do a git push, git push -u origin main. Git push -u origin main. Then we are going to push data to our repository. Then what we can do, maybe if we have our git repo, let's see if we're going to see those updates. We are anyway getting that. Okay, hope so. We'll get git push origin, git push -u origin main. It's taking some time, but anyway, that's it for this session. So in the next one, we'll be tackling the model trainer. So see you in the next one.